everybody. Hi, everybody. Wishing all of you a very good evening. Good to be here. I'm Pranit. I head the undergraduate division at upGrad abroad. I'm joined here by my esteemed partner, Pranav Sani, who uh, heads the country recruitment for the Indian market for Northern Arizona University in the United States. Pranav is here as an expert to talk about the US industry, the job market, different courses that you have for bachelor's or the undergraduate level in the United States. Pranav will, of course, enlighten us about the different tech courses, uh, would highlight the employment opportunities, would highlight the career progression, would highlight how does the US higher education system actually work like, would give us a lot of data and insights into how the U.S. industry, how the U.S. economy and and the market and each industry looks like in terms of numbers and how much potential does it have and which courses make sense, which ones don't. You can of course ask Pranav almost anything that you have as a doubt or question um, before you pick the United States for your bachelor's. Whether you want to go for the fall 22 intake or the spring 23 or fall 23 intake, or even if you're planning it somewhere ahead of time. Now is the time to ask us any question that you have. We're just waiting for a couple of more attendees to join and we will start right away. Meanwhile, you can use the Q&A box, which is at the bottom of your screen, to put down your questions and ask Pranav and I any doubt or any question that you may have. Once again, for everybody else who joined in, wishing all of you a very good evening. I'm Pranit. I head the undergraduate division for upGrad abroad. And I'm here with Pranav Sani, who's one of our esteemed partners at upGrad and is the country manager for recruitment for Northern Arizona University in the United States. NAU is 46th in the United States out of 5,000 universities for its engineering programs. Pranav is here to talk about tech courses in the United States, is here to address and answer about any industry specific or the US economy specific questions as well. And of course, I think it's something which, I mean, which course, which university to pick is a very conscious decision. You have to be fully mindful and thinking for that. Sometimes it's good to know which industries have a better scope than most. And also good to know, which part of the US will make more sense or which part of Australia will make more sense to study that specific course and which universities have a higher ranking and what kind of course. Also, I think the US admission process is very different. They look for a profile more than anything else. So we'd also love to ask him about how do you actually build a good profile to enter the top 100 universities in the US, so on and so forth. So I've got tons of things to ask Mr. Sani. Within a quick minute, we will start the webinar. Meanwhile, you can always use the Q&A box to ask us anything that you want to be answered here by our expert, Pranav Sani. Also to introduce upGrad. upGrad is one of the world's largest higher education platforms. What upGrad does is it designs, develops, and delivers online curriculum and online degrees for some of the world's leading universities, the top 100 universities, the top 200 universities in the world. We are a platform on which we source their online degrees. Some of the world's top MBA, some of the world's top data science or business analytics or programming or computer science MS. That we have. We've got doctorate courses, we've got bachelor's now. So the upGrad abroad division, what it does is that it lets you do 1 year equivalent of the curriculum in India, and then you jump or you transfer to campus both for bachelor's and master's. Without further ado, I welcome Mr. Sani. It is an absolute pleasure to be here with you. And hopefully, I think we can add value to everybody who's here. So we welcome you.
Good evening, Pranit, and a warm welcome to all the participants. And thank you for sparing time to come and hear us out. And I'm sure it's going to be an exciting session. upGrad has been doing great things in India. You are in safe hands. And together, we hope we can guide you to a better future.
Absolutely. I think the first thing that I'd love to jump into and dive into with you is why does the US make sense for a technology degree to begin with? I mean, despite the fact that it's the number one economy in the world, we'd love to know from you statistically and with your experience on the US tech market, how much potential does it hold? And what does it mean for a student who's 18 years old to move to the United States and start a technology bachelor's degree? How does the next 4 years for them look like? And what happens after that? How does life change?
That's an excellent question, Praneet. So US is home to the largest tech companies in the world. You name any big company and it'll probably be headquartered in the US. Secondly, because the developed economies, and especially the economy in the US, is less labor intensive. So tech plays a very, very important role. Things which are done manually in India or in countries which have surplus population, cheaper labor available, is done by technology abroad. So everything is mechanized, everything is computerized. So that is all the more reason why these economies are much, much more tech dependent. Whereas a country like India still has people to do some manual work, some document, right from documentation to processing, which is all moving ahead. In the US, it is all being done automatically through AI, through ML, through the latest technologies that are coming in. I had some interesting statistics which I had pulled up. I'll just see if we can have some, and I'll just share my screen with you guys to show you some of these. Can you see my screen, Praneeth? So this is an official US government website, the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, which gives all the data on what is the current scenario, what kind of jobs are getting here. So in the next 6 years, next 10 years, pardon me, they're looking at growing the tech industry at about 13% and adding about 667,000 new jobs. And they say that the median annual wage for other industries is about $45,000. In tech, it is ranging at about $97,430. So that those are some mind-boggling statistics. Also, if you look down below and you look at, I've picked up computer science randomly, but if you just look it up here, the average salaries for a person having a master's degree is about $130,000. At the same time, at undergrad level, it ranges between $93,000 to $120,000. Now, if you convert these in rupee terms, you will understand the magnitude of how big these jobs are. And these are just for people who have completed their bachelor's degree. The higher you get your qualifications, the better these and experience, the higher these salaries tend to be. This is an official government website. I encourage everyone to look at this. It's called the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So it shows all the kind of industries which are offering jobs, what are the kind of pays, and what is the average forecast for the next 10 years to come in.
Got that. Well, of course, I think the tech market. So the fact that it's the number one economy in the world. I think about 39% of the entire services or the share of economy is just technology in the United States. So that's a huge number, and of course, growing forward is only going to be bigger and stronger in terms of the robustness of what it has as potential. I think my next uh, prompt to you would be, would love to know a little bit about some of the most emerging and some of the most employable courses in technology that you have. I want you to cover, of course, the traditional degrees that are timeless, like computer science, but also the new age ones that you see are highly emerging, and that makes sense.
Again, great questions. So, Praneeth, what has happened is that, let's say in tech, computer science, if we talk about computer science, it is the evergreen degree. But now there are subsets within the degree. So there's artificial intelligence, deep learning, machine learning, which are the newer buzzwords which are being offered. So if you talk about our university, I think we offer a couple of these as well. If I go to my screen sharing again here, so we have degrees in the areas of So there is applied computer science, there's bachelor's of computer science, there's cyber security, there's electrical engineering, there's computer engineering, which is a mixture of computer science as well as electrical engineering. Traditionally, electrical engineering used to be the hardware component, but now with technology changing, the hardware is working on apps. So these degrees are also available. There's also informatics, which is the data science degree. Now, all of these degrees are starting right at the undergraduate level. There's cybersecurity, there's informatics, and then you have options of getting certifications in these degrees if you're not pursuing them full time. So a computer science graduate can get a cybersecurity minor alongside. So becoming a specialist in that area, as well as concentrating on their other degree, which they are traditionally pursuing. Similarly, with other areas, we have degrees in mechanical engineering, which are coming further on, and we have wind energy, we have power engineering, which again are very, very relevant to the current job market. The degree we have over 150 tech degrees, over 150 degrees, which many of them are tech. Will be hard to talk about all of these in this small time, but just giving you a fair idea about how things are working in the US at our university.
Well, that's very, very interesting. I think the increasing need of data science, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, machine learning is only going to increase because you've got Web3, you've got the Industry 5, um, which is, of course, making and creating an even bigger need for subjects like and domains like cybersecurity, right? The more transactions that happen online, the more need there will be for cybersec experts. So I see an increase, in the number of students that are opting for these new age courses as well. And like you mentioned, there's always the option of picking these as minors if you're not sure if, it's a booming uh, industry or not. And I also think so. Computer science is pretty holistic. It's pretty general in approach, and it can, it has many more frontiers where the child can eventually progress into whether it's AI or cybersec or DS. Computer science is a good base to at least start with. Uh, would love to know a little bit about Northern Arizona University's BScs course and how does that work. Would love to know what's the fee structure of the course. And like you mentioned, of course, then we can, of course, calculate the return on the investment that they make in 4 years and what do they reap back.
Excellent. So, Pranit, just before I start, you talked about cybersecurity. The other thing which is very, very popular in the US is experiential learning, or as we call it in India, the practical experience. Now, how does one get practical experience? Is it by working outside? Is it by going and working part time? That doesn't happen. In the US, you have to work on the campus. Now, in the US, the professors, alongside their teaching jobs, have their own research labs in which they get projects from the university or from the government or even corporates. And to complete these projects, they need teams. And instead of hiring people from outside, they prefer to hire their graduate students or undergraduate students, so who will work as programmers or who will work as experts in various domains. So you get the practical experience while doing your coursework within the university. So this is something which is very interesting. It doesn't happen in India, and students. So there'll be corporates coming in and giving funding to the university. Even the US government makes sure that a portion of their budget, let's say it's a NASA budget or the Department of Defense budget, it is shared with universities for the new age researches we are going on. Northern Arizona was a part of the Mars rover project, which went to Mars. We were helped in their development. In fact, the first Apollo mission, which went to in the 1960s, that was also where the NAU started contributing in. Talking about cybersecurity, we are in fact one of the top universities for the cybersecurity. And the latest research which we are doing is to fingerprint the hardware where malware has been originating from. So not only do the cybersecurity people or the experts stop the malware for coming and attacking your various transactions, but they can now pinpoint to which computer or which mobile or which other device was used to uh, uh, originate the attack, so that those can be pointed and the perpetrators can be caught doing that. Now, coming to our technology programs, I would again like to share my screen. Pardon me. So within our School of Engineering, we have a special department called the School of Informatics, Computing and Cyber Systems, wherein we are running all the new age degrees. So you will have degrees here in all of the fields that I talked about. There is computer science, there's cybersecurity, electrical engineering, computer engineering. You have to complete 120 credits over 4 years. Now, the beauty of the degree here or anywhere in the US is that the first year is generic. So I'm sure you are wondering what is the difference between a software engineering degree and a computer science degree or a cybersecurity degree. So besides seeing the course content, which you can on the website, you can go and do the experiments and take subjects from various areas in the first year, understand it, you might like it very much, or you might not be a cup of tea. And only from the second year onwards, you need to select your core stream and then go in for that. If you talk about the entry at the undergraduate level, we look at a percentage of roughly a 75 or higher average in your 10th and 11th. We will not wait for your standard 12 results because that delays the uh, visa process further on. You definitely need to submit your 12th mark sheets once you get those, but you can apply right after, before appearing for your board exams, 10th and 11th, 75% or higher. An English exam alongside, which can be an IELTS or a TOEFL or a Duolingo, a 6.0 in IELTS or a 90 or higher in Duolingo or a 70 or higher in TOEFL. Very, very achievable scores. Alongside two letters of recommendation and an SOP need to be added. We waived off the SAT requirement in the pandemic because people were unable to give these exams, and a lot of universities have now done away with the standardized testing. So with these, you can definitely get into the university. We also offer some handsome scholarships in association with upGrad, which Praneeth will be updating you about. Scholarships up to $40,000 for undergraduate students, which roughly works to over 32 lakhs at the current conversion rate. So you're all welcome to make use of this opportunity and apply for those scholarships as well.
Thanks. Just also wanted to let all the attendees know that we have a 4-year degree at NAU for Bachelor of Science, Computer Science. In fact, most bachelor degrees in the United States are going to be for 4 years. And at Northern Arizona University and a couple of our US university partners, we let you do the first one or the first 2 years in India, saving up to 90% of the cost that you would eventually have to pay in terms of your academic fee and living expenses. And then transferring to the campus. So what that helps you do is you can not just, I mean, you don't just save the 2 years of academic fee, but save 2 years of living expenses, but also get the same duration or length of work visa that you would get as a regular student who spends all 4 years on campus. So that's what we're doing at upGrad, making the US tech degrees way more accessible to you. We also have business degrees that equally make sense. The US has a rule called the STEM rule, which means that if you're doing a STEM bachelor's or master's degree, longer duration of post-study work visa. I'd let Pranav talk about what are CPT and OPT and how do they function. So if there's a student who goes to the US for bachelor's, at what point in time can he start looking for work part-time or do a curricular practical training CPT? And at what point do they apply for OPT, the optional practical training, which is the post-study work visa? How does it work for STEM degrees? How does it for non-STEM degrees? STEM is science, technology, engineering, mathematics. And so every degree has a, if it's a STEM degree, has a standard STEM code, assigned to it. So how does all of that work? We'd let him answer this.
Thank you, Praneeth. That's a long, long question, so I'll answer it in parts. Number one, as Praneeth mentioned, that we have a 2+2 partnership with upGrad. I again want to reassure you, it is just the same as studying on campus. There is no difference at all in the course curriculum. In fact, uh, experts from our university and their organization and our third academic partner have gotten together, racked the brains for a couple of months, and made sure that it is the same subject that a person who is on the campus is studying, and it is the same 30 credits that you are taking in India. You want to do it for 1 year or 2 year in India, it is perfectly your choice. It not only helps you save money, but you are also a little more mature till the time you are reaching campus, because you gain a few years in your age as well. Now, coming secondly to the question of when are you allowed to work? So the US allows you to work part-time right from the first day. You can land on campus. You just have to wait for your social security number to come in, which takes about 2 weeks to be processed. Once that is done, you are allowed to work on the campus. We have a large campus. Our campus is 710 acres. If you can just imagine, it's almost like a city within a city. 30,000 students. To give you more statistics, 29 restaurants on campus, 5 Starbucks on campus. There's even a hotel on campus. In fact, we have such a large campus that we have leased out land to private uh, companies who have then built up housing, because we did not want to invest more in housing. We already have 8,000 housing of our own. And these guys have built housing where you can go and stay, and yet it is a part of the campus. Now, CPT and OPT. CPT stands for Curriculum Practical Training. So, in doing internships is a very integral part of a US degree. So once your visa allows, it's usually after a year of being on campus, or at least crossing 2 semesters, you can opt for a curriculum practical training, in which our ISSS department, the International Student Scholar Services, will get this approved. It is only with the CPT you're allowed to go and work off the campus. So in the larger companies that you are aiming, you would like to get an internship, you can go in with the CPT, take some time off, and yet you will get credit for the CPT that you are doing, which will be at part of your course curriculum. The OPT is optional practical training. It is like for like a stay back degree, stay back time which you get to implement what you have learned in the US degree. So again, our career development center will help you with your OPT processing. You need to have a job within 90 days of graduating to be continuing your OPT. The STEM masters get up to 30 months, 36 months, and the non-STEM masters get a 1 year stay back degree there. Our career development center will get experts from the industry to do your professional trainings. They will also get professional lawyers, which charge up to $1,000 an hour otherwise for you free of cost, just so that you have the best of advice for your career development. In fact, if I have something on career development center here, just give me a second, please.
As an addition to what you mentioned, I'd also want all the attendees to know about the career fairs that we do, the job fairs that we do, and how easy and accessible do we make the US job market for these students. Uh, you know, uh, would also, like you were mentioning, um, that in the US there's an increased role of experiential learning. In the US there's an increased role of if the increased role of corporate partners who are not only involved with you in or with internships, but also in the curricular aspect, right? As in not just during CPT, but how much role do they play when it comes to the capstones? How much role do they play off and on in terms of the guest faculty interventions? And if students have a chance to also work for some of these startups or young companies on campus as well.
Great. So we have the capstone project, which is essentially the project that you do in your last year. It's called Design for Practice at our university. So herein you get a practical problem. It might be from the university side or from a corporate side, and you're supposed to work in a team and design solutions for them. So there have been mechanical engineers who have been solving wind energy problems. There have been environmental engineers at our university who have been solving the problems related to landfills or to air quality management. And similarly, tech guys happening small businesses scale up. There are business school guys who are joining their hands together and advising businesses how to grow. In fact, our business school had a fund for $500,000 in which we gave the money to our uh, finance guys to invest in stocks. And with some prudent advising and prudent investing, that fund has now grown to $1.88 million. So it's almost become 4 times of what it started with. So experiential learning, definitely a big part of US degrees. Also, if we look at this further and look at our website, the brilliant part about studies in the US, especially at NAU, is that everything is organized and everything is there on the website. So what are the various areas that you can work on? So we have an app called Handshake. Now, Handshake is your go-to place to look for part-time jobs within campus and also for jobs which are advertised in and around here. If you look at the right side, we are doing free resume reviews for undergraduate students as well as graduate students here. If you look at career advising, so if you need someone to talk to about how your career trajectory is progressing, will these courses help you reach a certain position or a certain job that you are targeting, it is here. Again, internships are mentioned on the website. There is student jobs, there is upcoming events, and all the student fairs. If you look at it on the right here, they're all on the website. So it's all very organized. It's all a very normal part of the system of studying in the US. Just you have to go there, access these, and go for them.
In terms of the campus jobs, what all options are there for students to practice when they enter the sophomore year or when they enter the junior year? Also, for all the attendees to know, when you enter the US degrees as year one, students you call freshman year. When you enter the second year, that's the sophomore year. When you enter the third year, that's the junior year, and the fourth year is the senior year. So whenever I use these terms, that means the first, second, third, and fourth year. So students with this setup have an option to enter directly into the sophomore year or directly into the junior year. So I'm just trying to ask Mr. Sani on the different kinds of part-time work that you get on campus, and also would love for you to talk about the living expenses on campus, Pranav.
Great. So one thing we need to understand here is that students run the university. The universities usually have one director or a couple of directors to look after entire departments, and then it is usually the student workers who are running, be it the campus dining, be it the library, be it the computer labs, be it the front of office, be it the Center for International Education. So everywhere students are an essential part of the workforce. So at the first year, maybe you have to choose your you have to pick what you get on your platter because you don't have as much experience. But if you come from a background or you have some prior experience or learning in a particular field, you can choose to work in maybe the ITS, the IT department, giving tech support within the university and also to outsiders. Like if there's a student, we have our own portal called Louis, which all of you will be a part of. Sometimes students have problem accessing that. So there'll be some student worker working on the other side, giving you tech support for that. Or maybe I need an additional email ID or I need more space on my email. So there is some tech person who is handling this, and it's usually a student worker. Now, we being a large university, we cook over 25,000 meals a day. Over 8,000 students live on the campus. So there are residence helpers, there are housing helpers, there are people who are working in the dining rooms. Over 500 people work in dialing alone. There is the library, which needs help. There is our office, the Center for International Education, which needs help. So jobs are all over. You initially start with these, but a lot of students then also start assisting their professors as graduate or research assistants, wherein you start working on the projects that the professors are working on and assist them in the form of programmers or tech support or whatever role your degree entails. Also, we have our own media center, we have our own television, we have our own radio channel. So it is not only limited to the computer science or the engineering degrees or only to the business degrees. We also have a brilliant department of communication. If you're looking at one of those degrees, again, a lot of experiential learning coming that way as well.
Got that. I think part-time work makes up for an essential part of a student life, and it gives you a good exposure into how the job market functions like. And I think it's a very inevitable and an indispensable part to what every student must experience as a student abroad. And it gives you a good insight also, with the who's who, helps you build a good network. And like you mentioned, especially with CPT, the internship, these students can actually get a chance to work for bigger firms, tech giants, other firms that eventually may be their full-time employers once they go for an OPT. Uh, and I just wanted to know, so for all the attendees here, the more part-time work you can do on campus, the more opportunities that you get on campus, it helps you uh, recover or recoup on the living expenses that you end up spending every month. We'll ask Mr. Sani to throw some light on how much does an average university's fee looks like, and how much is the living expenses in the United States. Of course, the US is a vast place, it's very diverse. While some states like the Dakotas cost you extremely less, states like New York would cost you a fortune. So, would love to know a good ballpark of living and the academic fee, Pranav.
The academic fees is roughly $27,000 a year. And then there are the various scholarships that we offer up to $10,000 per year, which upGrad has been our priority partner with to offer them. Also, the 2+2 partner program cuts down on the fees significantly, because in India it's hardly costing what, $4,000, maybe lesser, uh, as per the Indian fees. Now, living expenses is on the campus come at about $500, $500 to $600 a month for your housing. Add to that another $200 to $300 for your living, transportation, and entertainment. So those come to about $800 to $900 a month. Now, in the housing on campus, you get electricity, you get Wi-Fi, you get cleaning service. All of these are included as part of your housing expenses on the campus. Again, these are subjective. There, if you want a bigger room, if you want a suite to yourself, the cost might go up. But tentatively, with a twin sharing, it costs between $550 to $600 for housing, and add to that $200 to $300 for your food, entertainment, and transportation. Now, if you stay off the campus, the housing cost will come down to about $300 to $350 a month, and the rest of the costs remain the same. So therein, the overall cost comes up to about $600 to $700 a month.
Got that. We've got a few questions waiting for us, Pranav. But just, I mean, prior to that, I think it makes absolute sense. I mean, look, you're spending close to about between 12 to 17,000 USD for every university, because every university, which is about tier A or tier B, would of course cost high, but they give you a lot of scholarships. For example, Northern Arizona University, the university that we're speaking about right now, the fee is 27,000 USD, has a $10,000 every year scholarship with upgrad. The fee comes down to be about 17,000 USD. A lot of other university partners that we have, the tentative fee after scholarship is going to be between 15 to 17 a year, which is about close to 12 lakhs or 13 lakhs a year. Uh, and so with us, you spend the first 2 years, the last 2 years on campus, that brings your entire cost down to about 40 lakhs, 45 lakhs. Uh, Instead of spending 1 crore or at least 85, 90 lakhs to go and study in the US, with your living expenses factored in. Um, and the average return that you get even in your first year alone is about 100,000 US dollars. So typically you are recouping, recovering all the costs that you've spent in the 4 years in your first year itself. That's how robust and lucrative the tech industry in the US is. Um, so that makes absolute sense. You get 100% ROI. Would love to ask Pranav, we'll go one by one. Do US universities reject drop year students? So I think I can rephrase that. How many gap years does US actually accept? And we can talk both about gap years where the student hasn't done much or has appeared for an exam, but no academic or extracurricular progression, and gap years where they've done something purposeful work experience or some other course that they took up, how much of that is acceptable, Pranav?
So after standard 12, maybe a 1 to 1.5 year should be acceptable. Now, getting admission with a higher gap is not a problem as long as you meet the academic and English language criteria. But with higher gaps, the visa becomes a challenge. So you need to keep in mind it is not only admission, it is also the visa that's important. If you have gaps, I think upgrad 2+2 is a good way to recoup, get on board, show them that, okay, I was not sitting idle, I was doing this. They have the hybrid model where you can do it online, offline together. And still, if you have lost some months, do it like that. At the graduate level, if you start working after your graduation, it is not considered gap. For some reason, Indians consider that as a gap in education. That is not gap, that is work experience, which is considered excellent on your resume. So after graduation, there's probably no no number which I can put on, as long as you were doing something productive. Yes, sitting at home idle does not reflect very well on your resume. So you need to be doing something. It might be a course, it might be a small internship you were doing. Maybe you wanted to do your own startup thing, you were doing that. If you can prove to the visa officer what you were doing, they will accept the visa. University wise, and we do not factor in that all too much. Yes, but it shouldn't be a 30-year-old who's coming in for a undergraduate degree. So 1 or 2 years don't matter all that much.
Got that. We've got a follow-up to that. If I worked in my own father's business, will it be counted? So largely, does family business count as a legitimate reason for gap years?
Sorry, did you mean that working in your family business?
Yeah.
See, anything that you are saying, you need to substantiate in the form of maybe a bank statement where you got a salary or an income tax return that you filed. Even if you were working in a family business and had an income, you have to declare it to the government. So make sure that documentation is in place. Although Praneeth has a brilliant documentation team who can help you work with these, help you understand how you can best present your case. So just talk to these guys and they will be doing it there. But yes, working in your family business is absolutely acceptable. Pranit, I think I can talk a little bit about the entry requirement. Too many questions about what are we looking at.
Absolutely, yes. Please go
Right.
ahead. After which, I think I'd love to ask you about uh, a lot of students asked me, when it comes to comparing the US with Canada,
Mm-hmm,
and when you're looking for a long-term stability,
mm-hmm,
how does the US fare against Canada? And I think all of us need to be a lot more clearer in terms of how does the process work like. So I finish my degree, I go for an OPT. What happens next? What does the company or the employer need to do for me? What do I need to do? And how do the next 10 years look like if I genuinely want to spend at least 10 years in the US for the foundational layer of my tech career?
perfect. Great question. So again, repeating the entry criteria, we look at about a 75% or higher average in your 10th and 11th or 10th and 12th, any two exams that you have available. And we need the 75 average, so it doesn't have to be in both the exams, but overall it has to be 75 or higher. Alongside an English exam, an IELTS of 6.0, we do not care about the individual scores. As long as it is 6.0 overall, we are fine. Similarly, Duolingo 105 overall, we are fine. Similarly, TOEFL 70 overall, we are fine with that. 2 letters of recommendation and an SOP, which entails your life story and your reason for doing this course, is all we need at the undergraduate level. Now, coming to the next question, how does the US compare to Canada? It's a tough question to answer, but it's also a very, very simple answer. Go online and look at the highest salaries or the average salaries that people in Canada are getting, and go and look at the average salaries in the US people are getting. Let's compare only the computer science. Canada traditionally in North India has a strong connect to the Punjabi community and the people from North India going and settling there for ages. But people have been going there and doing blue collar jobs. They have been doing smaller jobs. So yes, in Canada, the PR might be easier, but just look at what the amount of money people are making. So stability wise, if you're looking at a very, very safer option, just go there, get my PR done, get a $50,000, $60,000 a year job, and have a good life. I think that's the country to be. Now, US works like a magnet. It attracts talent from whichever corner of the world is there. So you will very rarely hear of $1 million packages in Canada, whereas in US, maybe with 15 years or 20 years of experience, $1 million package is not unheard of. And this is just the start. People are making hundreds of millions in stock options and otherwise. So that is something which happens only in the US. It doesn't happen in Canada, it doesn't happen in UK or the other countries. So these guys are the other countries, the attraction here is to come and settle. But having a good job, having a high paying job, US is the land of opportunity. Now, coming to the second part of the question, what happens after 3 years? What happens once I do my OPT and the 3 years over? Do I need to come back? No. US wants you to stay back there. The visa that's applicable there is called an H-1B, which is the working visa. So as soon as you get your OPT and you get a job, you can start applying for the H-1B. The H-1B is a lottery. So more people apply to it than the people who get it. So you have to put your system in the lot, and there is a system where it is taken out. And if you get the lottery, you get 3 chances for that. And once you get that, your working visa is in order, which then keeps on extending. There is a green card option, but which is a longer process. But US is not a place where you have to go if you're only looking for settlement. Here is a place where you have to go if you need to get a good degree, you have to get a great career, a world leading career. It is only in the US you see all the tech giants. Now they have Indian CEOs, be it Microsoft or Google or Oracle. They're all being led by students like you who went there, studied there at one point of time, and now are leading big companies. Just look at what kind of salary packages these guys have. You will be amazed. Just multiply it by 80. There'll be not enough digits in your calculator to see what kind of money these guys are making. So that doesn't happen in the other countries. It only happens in the US.
I think you answered that pretty well. In terms of scholarships, so you've got 3 kinds of scholarships. One is, of course, bursaries. So which means as soon as you score more than the eligibility criteria and you enter into a university, you've been accepted, you definitely get an automatic bursary. That can be looked at a disbursement of automatic funds towards your academic fee. Normally, bursaries are spread over the duration of the course. So the Northern Arizona University has 40,000 USD spread over 4 years, 10K each year. Then you've got scholarships or financial aid that you call. These are based either on your financial need or on your merit, and or if you got extremely good artistic or sports or any other skills that you are able to demonstrate as superlative or of a very high order. The third is a typical grant or a fellowship that you apply. These are some of the privately funded scholarships that are available in some of the US universities, funded by their ex-students, funded by entrepreneurs, funded by large corporate firms, which you have to apply for specifically, write an essay, so on and so forth. So these 3 are there. So I started in the US on a full scholarship. I can definitely guide you that if you're meritorious, if you're bright, if you're brilliant, if you've got a good profile, which I would let Dr. Mr. Sani talk about, on how do you actually build that? Because I'm sure, so if you're applying in the US, you've of course heard that profile building is of extreme importance. I would go back to him and ask him, what really does it mean? And are you actually supposed to start it from grade 9 onwards, which is always the word around? And if you start late, what exactly do you need to do? And how essential is profile when it comes to directly applying? Please note that when these guys apply on a 2+2, they don't need to show any of these additional documents, because you're already demonstrating your academic readiness in the first 1 or 2 years. But can go back to Pranav and mention, and ask him, what does profile building look like?
Great question. So, Pradeep, for entry, the first criteria is usually academia. So make sure your academics are good, they are top notch. Depending on the kind of university you're applying to, the first thing they're going to look at is your GPAs. So make sure you get great scores right throughout your standard 9 to standard 12. People tend to take it easy on the 9th and also think that 11th is a place to enjoy, relax before getting in for the hectic life. Now, these are often part of your assessment. Some universities look at 9th, 10th, 11th, like we look at 10th and 11th. So 11th is also an important part. Secondly comes the extracurriculars. So maybe not captaining every team or leading every team that you are, but participating is also something you can demonstrate. So you can be part of a sports team, academic team, a debating team, a singing team. Pick up something, do something extra, which will give you an edge over other people. Just to give you a very rough example, two people have the same percentage. How do I differentiate one from the other? So, okay, you say, I am a good musician. I can participate in the university band. Or I was a great cyclist. I can cycle for the university. I can bring laurels. Thirdly, giving back to the society is also a very, very big part, something which everyone in the US does. So volunteer wherever you can. Go for the Swachh Bharat option, go for cleaning your society, or I'm sure your schools have the SUPW clubs wherein they work on various projects. Get these. All of these are they look very good in your resume and your SOP. Also in your SOP, mention these smaller achievements. They might seem insignificant, but that is how a profile is overall developed into a larger structure. Some universities also look at standardized tests. I'm talking about US general. So you can also concentrate harder on your SATs and recommendations.
Got that. So of course, your essay counts, what you've done in 10th, 11th, 12th counts. Your letter of recommendation plays a huge role. Who is recommending you? What have they written about you? How have they expressed, or how have they exhibited? How have they shown a record of what all have you done? Um, these three are of extreme importance when it comes to your scholarships also. The next one that we have is, what if the overall band is 6, but in one of the modules the score is 5 or 5.5?
Great question. We'll only look at the overall score. We don't care about the individual scores.
So it should be 6 on the whole. Won't matter if they, even if they got a little less. I mean, how less can it be if they got a 6? Then just means that they got something way too high on the
Other
on
modules.
some of the components. Can I get a full course detail? So Somal, I'm not sure which course you're looking for, but you can of course visit the NAU website or get in touch with us. I will put my email address on the chat box, and you can of course write to me directly. In terms of full course details, if you want the exact curriculum of the course, of course these university websites are, they're very clear, they're very specific, they're very detailed. You can of course come back to us to get the admission processed. That's something we can help you with. For computer science, how many languages do we need to be skilled at, or any languages which are required for CS? So of course, for someone who's just graduated grade 12, not much is expected per se, as long as you've done computer science. But I can go back to Mr. Sani again and ask if these students need to be extremely skilled at a language even to apply for a BScs.
That's a brilliant question, and I'll let you into a secret also. Even commerce students who have not studied computer science at all can go in for a bachelor's in computer science degree, and in fact they'll graduate as engineers. The only thing they need to have is a little bit of math in your standard 10 and 12. So we do not expect you to have any background knowledge. We encourage people from all spheres, all previous educations, come in and you can join in the degree. It is taught from scratch. No prior knowledge is required at the bachelor's level. Now at the master's level, depending on the kind of specialization you are looking for, it is good to have some background knowledge of Python and Java, but bachelor's, nothing.
I've got that. Please give some information about transfer students. So like Pranav already mentioned, a bachelor student who's going as a transfer through upgrad is treated and looked at by the job market as a regular student who finishes the last 2 years onshore and who started early online from their home country. Upgrad now just does not let you do this online. We have learning centers established in Delhi, Mumbai, Hyderabad, and Bangalore where you can go and physically consume content. Of course, some of our faculty is still online, but you can study as a cohort, get your project work, assignments, research, all the group work done physically where you're just consuming content online. That makes more sense because instead of paying 17 or 27,000 USD, you're paying 2.5 lakhs in first year, second year is 1.5 lakhs. And plus you get all the regular benefits that a regular student will get, like post-study work visa, CPT, um, and the regular participation that you get in job fair. So all of that is true while you're saving a lot of money. And like some of these students mentioned, I think it is worthwhile to note that if you're not at all adept or skilled at computer science or any course, the 1 or 2 years that you spend in India make all the more sense. They give you a good base, they give you an advanced standing, and they let you ease into that academic rigor and that gruesome uh, you know, environment of academics abroad. So you're able to do so much better on campus when you started in India and you have a good grip of what things are like. What I Please note that you're doing all of this in India under less pressure. When you're in the US, you're spending money, you're bleeding money. There's a lot of stress for you to make sure that you're coping up from day one and you don't leave anything behind. So India gives you that ease first. So I hope I cleared that out, Abhiraj. Then we've got Zodin Puya who says, what is the criteria for applying for integrated PhD?
Okay, excellent question. So by integrated PhD, I believe you mean a bachelor's leading to a PhD. Now, how the US structure works is anyone who does a bachelor's degree in the US does get some experience in research work. So be it for the capstone project or the design for practice, they will have to do some components of research, which unfortunately are not part of the Indian system. So an Indian graduate often finds it hard to get into a PhD directly without doing a master's in the US, wherein in the master's component, they learn about research and how to go about it. But if you do a bachelor's there, and this is the norm, if you look up a lot of resumes of people in the US, it'll be bachelor's and then PhD. So you can directly transition from a bachelor's degree to your PhD program. For the PhD, you have to look in the various areas that the particular professor is researching in, liaison with him, tell him that this is the skill set I bring to the table, this is my interest, and I would like to be contributing to your research group. And then they will take you in. You can do your PhD directly. Your master's taught component will be built into your PhD. So in about 7 years flat, assuming you complete your PhD in 3 years and your bachelor's in 4 years, you can come out as a PhD and save those 2 years for your master's. Also, PhDs are usually funded. So that is why people go in for PhDs rather than for master's, and they have all the components of a master's degree. Also, people with PhDs work extensively in the corporate sector, unlike in India, where it's usually they get into academics or they get into teaching. It is also the corporate sector that takes in a lot of PhD students.
So which means if they're interested, they can jump right into from a bachelor's degree to a doctorate. Uh, and what are some of the other prerequisites that they need to enter into an integrated?
Provided the bachelor's is done in the US.
Of course.
Not from India, because they will not have research experience. There's not many prerequisites. There will definitely be a certain percentage criteria and some standardized exams, sometimes a GRE, sometimes a subject GRE. So GRE also has two components. There's a general GRE And then there's a GR you can give for physics or chemistry to test your subject knowledge. Those might be asked depending on the kind of course you are going in for. But I don't think there's any other prerequisite. And a research proposal, definitely, what area you would like to work on, which you will liaise with your respective professor.
Absolutely. I think that makes sense. We're almost at the end. I think you've answered everything pretty well. We just got this one final question. In case a candidate has work experience where the LOR is from the college alone, but the work LOR is missing, what happens then? Especially at a UG level, I think it's just your school head and a teacher who's supposed to write you one. But at a PG level, I think I'd let Mr. Sani answer that if they do not have the work letter.
So, see, again, it depends on how much work experience you have. Now, someone like Pranit, who has tons of experience, he should not be giving me a recommendation from his school or college. But people who have recently started working 1 year, 2 years, they can choose to give it only from the college or from their work or a mixture of both. But yes, maybe after a very long time, it doesn't make sense to get it only from the college.
Got it. Can exam or entrance test that? So no. You do not need any entrance exam to enter Northern Arizona University. Of course, you've got standardized tests like SAT or GRE or GMAT, depending on which course you're going for. But SAT, like Mr. Sani mentioned, is no longer required. SAT is now a part of your profile building. So you can, of course, demonstrate how you are doing academically through SAT, but you don't need it as a prerequisite to enter. It's just your academic merit. That's the first sentence that he started with, that as long as you can prove your academic credibility, you're going to be okay when you apply to any university in the US. I think with this, we come to an end of our webinar of studying technology in terms of the bachelor's degree in the United States and why it makes sense. Of course, 4 key points to take away. One, 9.3% of the US economy is just technology. 39% is what, 39% of the entire technology economy in the world is just the US, just the United States, 39%. And of course, the US has 1.6 trillion USD in technology alone in terms of its economy. 9.3% of the complete GDP that the US has is technology. So, of course, great sector, makes all the more sense. A lot of money, a lot of jobs. Starting salaries are as high as 100,000 US dollars. That's double the amount of money that you spend on certain universities alone. Second, the US gives you 3 years of work visa when it comes to technology degrees. After 3 years, you apply for an H-1B and you can stay back in the US. Number 3, almost, I think, 170 close of the Fortune 500 firms are just in the US alone. And most of these are tech giants. So it makes all the more sense for you to get an experience, even if it's just for 3 years, to work for Facebook or Meta or LinkedIn or some of these bigger players, and then come back or go or move somewhere else in the world. You would of course find a great job. Number 4, the US would cost, every year in the US would cost you about close to 15 lakhs, 12 to 15 in terms of academia, if you're settling for a tier B, tier C university. And I've already mentioned you about the starting salaries. And your living expenses are going to be factored at around 1,200 USD a month, keeping in mind that you're paying for your stay and your food both. That's the least I'm speaking to you about. But yes, if you're really able to save up on money, then close to 800 to 900 USD a month, is the minimum you've got to be looking at. The 4th key takeaway is that if you're completing a 4-year bachelor's in the US, you can also apply for an integrated PhD. 5th is there are going to be abundant job fairs, abundant corporate exposure, abundant capstone interventions by corporate players, and of course, tons of part-time work that you can do. I think with that, doing a bachelor's in the US for technology makes absolute sense. Like Pranav mentioned, you just need to start with BS in the first year. Second year is when you actually choose computer science, DS, cybersecurity. What exactly do you want to pick up? That gives you an advantage and flexibility. That's also something you do with upGrad. So After doing 1 year, you can choose between engineering, AI, cybersec, almost 35 different options that you have, which give you that abundant flexibility, but also the time to decide where do you actually want to maneuver your path towards. Would like to thank Mr. Sani. I hope I could add value with him to everything that you wanted to know. I wish you guys good luck. I have given my email address to you. If there's anything that you want to know, we would be more than glad. Thanks again, Mr. Sani, for being here with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Pranit, and thank you everyone for attending this session. And hope to see you on campus soon. Bye bye.
Thank you.